Before we get into the video, shout out to our sponsors Subside clothing brand. Subside is a new, up-and-coming clothing brand established in Bristol that is looking to add something different with their clean designs that celebrate their roots. You can find the link to all their social medias in the description of this video. From the Terrace Podcast and Subside clothing brand, it's a match made in heaven. Support the boys, support the grind, shop Subside. Hello and welcome back to the From the Terrace podcast and to another edition of Champ Talk. That's right, we are back. No more Twitter predictions this week. We're back with a full-blown episode to talk everything Championship. Regan, we spoke a little bit before this about how we don't really want to have to talk about this club. But if we're going to do a championship talk show, I feel we kind of have to. The big news in the week, obviously, was Aitor Karanka leaving, being sacked by Birmingham City. You make your own mind up on that one. But he was replaced by Lee Bowyer, and who's actually in Lee Bowyer's first game in charge, they've beaten Reading by 2-1. Regan, thoughts on Karanka being sacked? I feel like I know what you're going to say. And thoughts on Bowyer as his replacement?
It's a good thing that he was sacked. I'm not for all this thing that he left, because what are the chances that he walked out on his own terms within an hour they had a replacement? I'm not buying the fact that he walked out on his own terms. But I was going to say it might be a little bit too late for Birmingham, because I couldn't see them getting a good replacement in and getting the results together. But obviously that's proved me wrong in a matter of 24 hours, because Lee Bowyer, we've obviously had very good success at Charlton. And he's can be considered as a Birmingham legend, I suppose you could say. And so we know he's got the fans behind him as what he had at Charlton. And all he really needs is to have the backing behind him from the higher ups. And I think he can do a brilliant job. And it's obviously what we've seen in 24 hours against a playoff contending team. Maybe Birmingham is safe after all, because that's a very impressive thing. And I've got to say, full credit to Birmingham, because out of the recent appointments that Championship teams have made, that's probably one of the better ones. To be honest, he's one of the only managers there that in that pool availability I could have gone, yeah, I think he would have done a good job. And fair play to them. They've obviously had it brewing for a long time, it must be said, because that's the only thing I can think of, keeping Karanka around for that long. But yeah, good start for the Bowyer reign at Birmingham. Let's see where they finish, because at this rate they're going towards safety.
Yeah, I mean, on the Bowyer appointment, I thought it was one that was in the pipeline for a while, because it was sort of the name that was getting thrown about in the summer, is just because of the Birmingham legend status. The fact that the goings on at Charlton, it felt like this is kind of a bit later than it was initially going to. In terms of my thoughts on the appointment, I think it's one that, like I said, was inevitable. My jury's still out on Lee Bowyer personally as a manager. Did well with Charlton to get promoted, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, despite maybe you can argue they were doing brilliant first half of the season, and he got Conor Gallagher taken off of him, and they slid down the league. But he ultimately did take them down. So my first thought on this was, yeah, he probably will just about give him the boost, because you usually do get a boost from a manager, and they probably will just about keep him up. But I'm not sure he's the best manager in terms of the future for them, but I might be wrong. Let's see what Lee Bowyer can do as a club that actually backs him, because at Charlton, obviously, he's had his struggles with ownerships and everything like that. And I think it was clear that Bowyer was getting frustrated. He was frustrated last season. He probably felt like he should never have got relegated. And if it wasn't for that terrible bit of form towards the end of the season, when he had been sold up shit creek, as you could call it, he was doing a good job. So we'll see. And I suppose appointment I personally like, because of his connection with Birmingham City, and you just like to see those sort of stories happen, don't you? That is something I quite enjoy. But yeah, he's got winning his first game in charge 2-1 over Reading. Got Lukas Jukovic back in the goals, and I mean, if we just touch on Reading slightly in that conversation just quickly. They're looking like the team who are probably most likely to drop out of the top 6 now, Regan. Because Barnsley, we won't talk about them too much this week because we spoke about them a lot, just continuously strengthening their claim for a playoff spot. Reading's the one that's looking frail, and lost to Birmingham, albeit against a team with a new manager bounce, is not a good result, is it?
No, very true, especially because the team below them, Bournemouth, put on a very impressive result, which we'll probably touch on a bit later on, as well as Borough getting a few good results together. yeah, you've only got 5. Was it? Yeah, 5 games left of the season, and these games, they're the games you have to win. I'm sorry, because I don't know their remaining fixtures, but I don't think there's going to be many
Did you just say
easy
5 games
games.
left of the season?
Is there not? Oh my God! Now I'm being an absolute. I thought it was 42. I don't know what I'm going on about. God, I'm leaving. I'm a fraud. I do apologise. 9 games left of the season if you're Reading. Yeah, but anyway, my point still stands. These are the games you have to be winning, and I'd imagine there's not many teams that are going to be easier to beat than Birmingham, even though it is a new manager. And like I said, with the teams around them winning, you need to win as well. And maybe the quality that Reading have is really shining through, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, you touched on Bournemouth, and we might as well get onto them next then. Beating Swansea by 3-0. As Sid Regan, Bournemouth scored their 3 shots on target. Yeah, I don't know. It's just that was a sort of a performance that came out of nowhere because Bournemouth have been indifferent of late as well, which sort of was the reason why Reading were managed to cling on to that playoff spot. But I think it's the news story is, well, we want to talk about the top 6 race, and you've got obviously Reading sitting in 6th position now, Barnsley in 5th, not too far behind Brentford, albeit Brentford have a game in hand. It feels like this conversation changes every few weeks, and we've got to be careful not to just fall into that trap of being those, those pundits who just change their mind every week and get away with it. But is this between Bournemouth and Reading now for you? Because we'll get on to one other team who's probably in the race as well. It felt like a couple of weeks ago it was bang on for Cardiff, who we're going to get onto. For most of the season, it felt like it was bang on for Bournemouth and Reading to get it. It's constantly changing. Can you see anything is anything clearing up for you of how it's going to end, or is it still just so hard to call?
I think it's too far away for me to make a definitive decision yet, but I'd have to say I'd stick with Bournemouth because over the past few games they put in really good performances, and I know we've criticised them quite a bit because of their appointments, etc. But I think they've just dealt with all that criticism, and they've really shown out on the pitch. I mean, that's a really good result. And Bournemouth, but man for man, are a very good team in this league. And I think all it takes is for them to get a few results together, which they're currently doing. And I don't think many teams around them can stop them because the league's best defence can't stop them. So I think they've got a very good case. And like I just said, Reading aren't the best on paper and are prone to playing silly games like the game against Birmingham. So I'd have to say I'll give the momentum to Bournemouth, but like you said, there's still so many games to go. It could end up being Millwall for all I know,
Yeah.
but I think Bournemouth is probably the safe way to go because their form and their quality is very good.
Yeah, I agree on that one. In terms of Swansea, Regan, we've spoke about for quite a while now. They are getting results still, and yes, that's the sign of the team who's going to get promoted usually, or that is the sort of consensus. But I have been saying that I feel the luck's going to catch up with them. Has it caught up with them now? I mean, it's one result, but they were completely brushed aside by Bournemouth. They've got Cardiff on Saturday, which we'll get onto. I mean, not only is it a completely different Cardiff side to the one that they would have played earlier in the season, it's also just the fact it's a South Wales derby means anything can happen. Swansea were getting away with it for too long, weren't they, Regan? Is that what we're seeing now, or am I being too harsh over one result?
Well, you can say that because they've had a fair share of results that definitely have most certainly gone their way. But through all those results, you can clearly see there is that's not the same Swansea that were in the top 2 for a lot of this season. They didn't have to rely on last minute penalties. The draw against Blackburn, especially even though they did win, the win against Luton especially, I wouldn't have expected Luton to control the game for the majority of the period that they did. But I suppose that's the way Swansea are at the moment, and I'd say that is the Bournemouth game, just a culmination of their luck running out, as well as just a better team coming up against them, unfortunately, on the day. And maybe it's a sign of they've gone from a lot of luck to absolutely no luck, because I don't know if they're getting... I did see some fans on Twitter saying, oh, the ref was against us, but I think you should never complain about refs after the luck you've had this season. Mm-hmm. But maybe this is the sign of things changing for Swansea. Maybe it's a knock-on effect of well, our luck's running out now. Now the morale's gone at the club or whatever, and their heads are dropping slightly because losing to a rival like that in Bournemouth, especially with a very big game like you said against Cardiff on the weekend, things could really go from such a high to such a low really quickly, and they need to sort things out because Watford are winning, Brentford are sort of kind of not really winning, and Barnsley are winning, so they might slip out of the top two picture very quickly, unfortunately.
Well, I think there's quite a few clubs, Brentford included, who are at risk of dropping out of any sort of top two conversation, and we could be seeing our top two unfold, with Watford obviously winning 4-1 against Rotherham and Brentford conceding what was, we're not going to touch on it too much, but Brentford controlling the first half, about as controlled of a performance I've seen in the Championship this season, to then completely capitulating within a couple of minutes of the second half, having to hang on and not being able to hang on to Derby County, which was, I mean, it was absolutely a disaster, a tactical disaster class for Thomas Frank, in all honesty. But we're going to move on to our final game, and obviously it's not one of a thriller, Cardiff Stoke. It's 0-0. I think what we wanted to take from it is the fact that Cardiff have dropped off. We gave them a lot of praise when Mick McCarthy was just winning continuous games. I mean, it's hardly been a massive drop off, but they have had a couple of results that have not gone their way recently. Regan, have they just completely run out of steam, or can you see? I know you said you're not, so you really want to call the playoffs yet, but do you see you have enough in this Cardiff team and Mick McCarthy to then put another run back together? Because there's still 9 games, you can go and put another run together before the end of the season.
Well, they definitely have the team to make a very good run, but you have to say at the moment that they're not going to make a top 6 charge, because they went, I don't know the number of how many games they went on a winning streak and how many undefeated, but they haven't won in 3 games, and they've only scored 1 in the past 3 games. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns, because the start of Mick McCarthy, they were scoring goals for fun. They were scoring 2 a game, 3 a game, etc. And then the draw against Huddersfield, especially a draw against Huddersfield and Stoke, a 0-0, is very worrying. And we basically said about every single game, but the teams around them are winning, and that's the biggest concern. But Cardiff and Mick McCarthy are good enough to get a few string of games together. I should really look at the upcoming fixtures, apart from obviously the Swansea game, because if Cardiff have a good run in towards the back end of the season,
they still got to play the likes of Nottingham Forest, Blackburn, but they've also got to play Brentford still. It's quite a mixed fixture list.
They're definitely quite a few winnable games for a Mick McCarthy team, but it's just a matter of just momentum. I'm going to say it every single week. There's probably going to be a compilation somewhere of me saying momentum every single week, because Cardiff really need that, because they were like you touched on. I think I tipped them to finish 5th just like a few weeks ago, and now they're 9th below Middlesbrough, and they're what, like 6 points off the playoff picture, and they've got a game less than Brentford, etc. Yeah, this is quite worrying, because if you can't score against Huddersfield and Stoke, not even get a result, you can't score against them, then I think that when you come up against these better teams, I think you're going to struggle. But it feels weird saying that. But yeah, Cardiff have got the firepower to start scoring and start winning freely. It's just a matter of if they can turn this around quick enough.
Anyway, Regan, it is that time of the week for predictions. So we have done them on Twitter. We have done them in private. But it's time to update the viewers on the scores. We've had a couple of game weeks pass. How are we doing?
It was heartbreaking it was really heartbreaking yesterday, because I backed Millwall, and I was like, it's half time, I'm going to put my feet up. This is an absolute surety that they won this. I cannot believe it. And then the stupid QPR go and score 3 in the second half, and I was like, okay. So 86 minutes, it was 2-2. I went, all right, no one's getting the point this week, and that's fine by me. No, they go and score in the last minute. So yeah, congrats. What are you thinking for? I got Bournemouth versus Swansea right, and you got Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield draw correct. And if you didn't pay attention, I'll quickly run through the other ones we got right. Luton versus Coventry, both got Luton right. Borough Preston, we got Borough right. Rotherham versus Watford, obviously Watford right. Forest versus Norwich, we both got that right, and Wickham versus Barnsley, just pure genius. I think that we somehow managed to pluck out the Barnsley prediction out of our heads. So congrats to us on that. So the end of this week, at 12 fixtures, you got 7, and I got 6, which I suppose just for 50%, just about 50%. It's all right.
Mind updating us on how the week before went also? We didn't
Oh yes, of course. Well, I don't have like the whatever fixtures, the game by game, but I can tell you finished 5-5.
Okay,
Which
so
was
over the last couple of weeks, I've made up 1 point on you. Is what we're
you
saying.
have, yeah. I haven't actually won a week since. Let me quickly check. 10 weeks ago was the last time I won a week, which is quite embarrassing.
You're telling me you're like Brentford when they get to the top of the table.
Yeah, I'm just bottling it really. But the fact is, I had such a big lead that it still doesn't faze me really, because it's 182 to 196. So I'm just gonna. You've got 9 weeks to make up 14.
9 weeks to make up 14 points. Stranger things have happened. Anyway, Regan, we'll get into the predictions for this week then. Speaking of Brentford, we'll start it off. They are the early kickoff on Saturday. Oh dear, I have to watch our team embarrass us on Sky Sports. No, I'm sure they won't. It is Brentford versus Nottingham Forest at the BCS, taking over the West London skyline. No cottage in sight. What's the score going to be? Brentford Forest.
Well, the cottage is going to be rocking on because of the night before. I'll tell you that after we batter the scummy Leeds. But for this one, I said it in the Twitter video that I do not like Nottingham Forest. I don't think Chris Hughton has really done little to anything to improve that team, in all honesty. And that really showed, because Norwich had I think I saw they had 22, 23 shots on just shots in general. I think they had 8 or 9 on target.
Three of their players created over 4 chances each.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And when you come up against the top scorer in the league, and you're getting your full strength players back, etc. Even though they did kind of throw away a lead, I'm going to have to back Brentford, because once again, I think Nottingham Forest are a really bad team, and I don't think Chris Hughton deserves any praise that he gets at this job, because he's done nothing, to be honest.
I can't particularly argue with that. In terms of Brentford, obviously did bottle it in the week. Good news is, though, that although that did happen, Pontus is back. That was his first game back from injury. Norgard is back. I think we'll start to see him slight improvements over the next few weeks in terms of holding on to leads and stuff like that. I don't know. It was just a particularly poor game. I don't really know how Brentford managed to bugger it. But playing against a team like Nottingham Forest in the past has been a struggle for Brentford. But I feel this season it's actually been better. Brentford has struggled more with the high press sides. I can tell you, with Glenn Murray up top, they will not be pressing us high. So I think it could suit Brentford. And I think Brentford are going to win the game. I think we'll just about edge it out. I'll go for not one particularly amazing for the Sky cameras, 2-0 or something like that. But Brentford will win. Brentford will win the game. Anyway, the next one is, and the start of 3 o'clock kickoffs, Yorkshire Derby, Barnsley, Sheffield Wednesday. Now, if you're a traditionalist and looking at the size of these clubs, you'd go, "Oh, this can only go one way." Well, it's different days now, Regan. The Wednesday's going down and the Tykes are going up. Who's going to win this game? I think I've sort of given it away, have I not?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, congrats, Sheffield Wednesday. You scored twice against Huddersfield. It's just a shame that one of them was in your own net. Barnsley just they are brilliant at the moment. I think we both have a soft spot. I think most of the Championship have a bit of a soft spot for Barnsley. And I just really hope that they continue this winning form, because we want to see them back in the Prem, don't we? And I'm going to say Barnsley, because Sheffield Wednesday are more likely going down.
I think it's kudos to Barnsley that people actually do like them, because, I mean, even Brentford fans quite like them. And in honesty, Barnsley have been the bane of Brentford's life. They stopped Brentford getting promoted last season. They started this poor run this season. They've been the bane of our lives. And they even got Cauley Woodrow up front. He's not exactly our favourite person. So, but I still like them, Regan. A team that plays decent football and just defies the odds. And I love a team that does well when you got all these clubs spending so much money, you got all the parachute payments. Norwich are boring. Yes, they'd have played the best football in the league, but they should be going up. Barnsley, this is quite a story. I love them, and I think they're going to keep on going. And the problem is, God, if we lose and they win, they're same points as us. Who would have thought that a few months ago? But yeah, Barnsley to beat Sheffield Wednesday. Now, Regan, there's an absolute dinger, an absolute cracker down at Ashton Gate next. It is Bristol City versus Rotherham. Oh, I wonder why the Sky cameras aren't there, eh? Anyway, how's Nigel Pearson's not going to get on? They drew 0-0 in the week, quite a boring result. Max O'Leary keeping a clean sheet between the sticks. Rotherham, they're finally back playing. Could we see a new revitalised Rotherham?
Well, based on the first game back, no, not at all, because they got, quite frankly, torn to shreds by Watford, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for them because I know that the majority of the games that did get postponed are against top 10 teams and Bristol City. Bristol City just, I can't back Rotherham against a Nigel Pearson team, even though that draw against Blackburn was woeful. I watched the highlights. Oh my God. I'm not even sure if you can class that as a football game. I am going to say Bristol City, though, because I just think this whole burden around Rotherham that is just too many games is just going to catch up on them really quickly. And I'm going to say Bristol City.
Bristol City are one who flatter to deceive, aren't they, Regan? When they have 25% possession against Blackburn Rovers, they're not exactly everyone's favourite footballing side, let's say that. But Pearson, he's experimenting at the moment, obviously, because he's got this run in where Bristol City is safe to next season. It means might throw up some weird results. Can't see a weird one happening here, though. I'm going to back Bristol City to win against Rotherham as well. Unfortunately for you, Rotherham, this build-up of games is not going to do you any favours, and I really hope you stay up, but I can't see it. Coventry versus Wickham at St Andrews next one. Good news, obviously, since we've been away, is that Coventry will be returning to the Rico next season with fans. That's a good bit of news. I look forward to that away day, seeing as we're not going to the Premier League. Coventry, Wickham, though, Regan. Wickham, you've had your fun. Go away now, innit?
Well, you say that, but I think if they win this and Sheffield Wednesday lose, Wickham aren't bottom, which is a horrible, horrible thing to think of.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm going to say this. Maybe Coventry returning to the Rico Arena isn't the best news for them because they seem to be absolutely brilliant when they go to St Andrews. And that's why I'm going to back them because I say every week I tend to back Coventry when they're at St Andrews, and especially against Wickham. I can't say anything else.
Yeah, it's got to be Coventry for me too. Little else to say. Millwall versus Middlesbrough, two of the chasing pack. Not exactly spearheading the chasing pack of the playoffs, but they're still in with a shout, kind of, I guess. How's this going to go?
Even though neither of these teams are really drawing at the moment, I can just see that these two teams just going to cancel each other out. It's Neil Warnock against Millwall. I think it's going to be, more than likely a 0-0, maybe a couple chances, but I think it's just going to be a draw. I'm
going to go for a Borough win just because of the midweek antics from Millwall. You can't be tuning up against QPR and bottle it. I mean, I'm one to talk. Brentford did similar, but I feel like that's a Middlesbrough win for me. Regan, Norwich are playing Blackburn. Little else to say. Should we move on?
Yep.
Norwich win for that on both of us. Preston, Luton. Luton absolutely tearing Coventry apart in midweek. Could have had 4, could have had 5. They had an expected goals of over 4 for the game, which you don't see very often. Winning obviously 2-0 against Preston. I don't know what to think about Preston, to be honest.
Well, I know what to think, and it's the fact that they are really, really bad at the moment. It must be said. You lose to Wickham, and then you get kind of humbled by Middlesbrough. I haven't seen anything about possibly Alex Neil's job being a bit of jeopardy because they're slowly slipping down their press, and I expect them to be in and around the top half. But they're 16th. They're 16th, and they're one win away, one loss away, and other results, and going down to about 18th or 19th place. And
I think the reason you haven't seen that Regan in particular is because he has done a good job for Preston for the main part. And also, I think a lot of teams with this COVID year have written it off, and as long as they stay in the league, they don't expect much. And I think Preston are probably one in that boat.
Yeah, I can see that. But Yeah, I can't about Preston. Their form is absolutely woeful, so I'm going to have to say Luton again.
I'm going to go for the same logic. I'm going to go for Luton too. Reading versus QPR. QPR, the team who were more informed than Reading. But Reading, your team, you'd say, who have more quality and are obviously higher up in the division. Reading going to let this slip, Regan? Are Reading going to let this slip?
I feel like against a QPR team that has a bit of momentum now, obviously beside the Huddersfield game, I think it's very possible that they could drop a few points here, and I'm gonna have to back the form again because I don't think that the Reading game, they didn't look particularly inspiring against Birmingham anyway, and I don't think against another tough team like QPR, who apparently have the best midfielder in the league, and Stefan Johansson in the midfield. I think it's going to be a very tough game. Look at the stats; he's been absolutely brilliant. You can't say. Just ask Jamie Perry, not biased opinion in the slightest. I'm going to say QPR are going to win the game again.
An absolute outrageous claim from Regan when he knows Josh Da Silva plays football in the Championship. Anyway,
Who?
I'm going to go for a draw in this one. I can see a score draw in that, personally, because of, like we said, the two defences aren't great, but two forward lines are quite decent. So I'll go for a draw in that one. Stoke versus Derby. Derby scored their first 2 goals in 7 hours of football against Brentford in the week. Stoke not scoring in the week. Oh, Regan, this is just boring, isn't it? Is this time for some common knowledge?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Oh, you need a bit of it.
Yeah, these two just can't beat each other. They can't beat anyone else apparently unless you're called Wycombe Wanderers. So I'm going to say a draw, and I think everyone knows that that's probably going to happen as well.
You know, sometimes in your life you just have to apply some common knowledge, and I'm going to do the same. So I'll back the draw there. The penultimate game of the weekend is Watford versus Birmingham City. Lee Bowyer's Blue Army going down to Hertfordshire. Watford are just beating everyone, Regan. They're beating everyone. You know what I mean? You say that they were a team that were not exactly outstanding. They were relatively boring. But they were hanging in and around the right places, and they've hit the form at the right time.
No, indeed, yeah. But have Birmingham hit a purple patch? Can they spring a surprise? No. Very good wins for Watford, especially the Cardiff one. I've got to say, even the Rotherham one's probably very good because Rotherham have a lot to play for, and they just sat them down. So I'm going to say Watford again.
I have to go Watford too. And then to finish off the Championship week, and also the last games before the international break, when England start the journey to 2022 World Cup glory with their qualifiers. No, Regan?
I don't care.
Oh, okay. It's the South Wales derby, a country that won't be going to the World Cup. So at least you can enjoy this one, guys. Swansea versus Cardiff City at the Liberty. How's this going to go?
This is extremely hard to call, but you did touch on it earlier. It's a fierce rivalry. It's a South Wales derby, so it can only mean one thing: a ball draw.
And I'll take it. I would take it. I'm going to go for a ball draw too. For you guys. I have to. I know Swansea have been conceding goals lately, but obviously for the main part, their defence has been good. Cardiff under Mick McCarthy's defence has been decent. And then you go South Wales derby. It's going to be tight. Mick McCarthy is like one of these man. He's a proper manager, isn't he? Like, well, when I say proper manager, he's a proper football man. He knows what derbies mean, and he will go there, and it won't be particularly interesting. But I could just see him shutting up shop. Swansea haven't been particularly good on the front foot recently, so they may struggle to break them down. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a 0-0 in South Wales. Anyway, that is our predictions done for this week, and that is the return of Champ Talk done. We will be back with another episode after this week's fixtures. We'll be talking about the game week, and also we might have a little. Seeing as it's a little break before the international break, it's the last international break before the end of the season. We might have a little look at the end running to the Championship season, make a few claims, see who we think is going to do well, who it doesn't look too good for, and probably predict that Brentford and Swansea bottle promotion as they tend to do. But You have to tune in to see that one. Anyway, Regan, if they did enjoy, what have they got to do? They've got to like the video, subscribe to the From the Terrace podcast YouTube channel, leave us a rating on iTunes, follow us on Spotify. Me and Regan will see you in the next Champ Talk.